Okay, we are now recording. So first thing to talk about is the final exam. There was a meeting this morning with all the Donghua teachers, and I was talking to them about the final exam, and what I was told is that this semester they are not setting the time. Usually the administration will decide when is the exam, and that's it. I asked if I could give students like a window of 2 days to take the exam, the way I've done it last semester, where it's on Blackboard and you can click a link and then you have 2.5 hours or 3 hours to take the exam, but you can do it whenever you want. There is a concern a little bit among the teachers, which I understand, that it's a lot better to watch students take the exam. But I think there's also a concern that for a lot of people, the time of this class is not convenient. Right now there's only 6 people out of 22 in here, and that's been the same in law too. So I don't know, I don't know what's going on this semester, but attendance has just been really, really bad this semester. And I guess part of that is just the time differences that everybody has. So I think what I'll do is I will put it on Blackboard and make it a link. As for when we'll do it, right now, today is the 15th for you guys. Next week is the 22nd, and following that is the 29th. So I would keep it at the 29th. So what I'll probably do then is the same thing for business law. Instead of putting it on Tuesday, the 29th, I'll put it up on Friday, the 25th, or something like that. And I'll give you, or maybe I'll put it up on Sunday and give you Monday and Tuesday and have it be, you have to finish it by midnight, the 29th. What do you guys think of that?
Could you repeat that?
So I would put it up on Sunday, the 27th, and I would give you all of Sunday, all of Monday, and all of Tuesday. And then a Tuesday night at midnight, it'll be closed.
Is it still 3 hours?
I don't really want to give that much time. I'd rather just put it up on the 29th. Yeah, I'll give you 3 hours for it. This is a 3-credit class. I would rather just put it up on the 29th. I don't want to give 3 days. That's not great. So that's actually my plan, is I'm going to put it up on the 29th.
29th, and we have to submit it by midnight on the 29th, right?
Yeah, I'll put it up on the morning of the 29th, and you'll have until midnight to take it. So you'll have all day on the 29th to take it. And what I'll do then is, if anybody has a problem with that, anybody here in the room or anybody who's watching this on video, just WeChat me or email me, privately, and maybe I can arrange a separate time for you. But for the most part, for everybody, I'm going to try to make it the 29th. I think there are concerns that if I give 3 days for this, then, what if a student takes it on the first day and then immediately calls up everybody else and tells them what was on the test? If it's the same day, then it's not really going to matter so much. But I think there's a concern if you give 3 days to take a test or something like that. So it's something to be careful of. So that's the plan right now. Now, what that means is next week will be a final review. So what we learned today pretty much will be the end of what is on the final exam. And next week, we'll just review for the test. What I will do is I'll also put some previous exams or some practice questions and some practice questions. I'll put both previous exams and practice questions on Blackboard in the content section. And then next week, our review will be looking at those. So if you have questions about them, feel free to email me or WeChat me. And otherwise, next week, we'll go through the practice questions and the previous exam. I will not go through the PPT, week by week and say everything you need to know. If there's some time at the end of today's class or at the end of next week, I can if you want, but mostly I'd rather go through past exams or practice questions. Any questions? Sorry?
We have class on the 28th.
You have what?
Do we have class 28th?
Oh, on the You're saying on the 29th?
28th.
Well, wouldn't it be the 29th? This is a Tuesday class.
Oh, for me, it's Monday night.
Oh, right. For me, it's Monday night too. But speaking in Beijing time, it would be the 29th. And so no, essentially, you know, and we could, if people want, I am totally comfortable moving the exam and having class on the 29th. But if we do that, then next week is not a final well, yeah, it still would be. Next week would still be a final review. So
But we
no,
don't
the
need to
20,
have during.
yeah, no, the 29th will be the final exam. That's the plan now, since that's the way the semester works out. The finals should all be done by pretty much January 1st. I mean, I think they run a little later. What about other classes? Do you guys have any other, when are your finals in other classes?
Yeah, we have accounting exam on Tuesday, the same date as our this class exam, and on 30 we have basic statistics exam as well. So
Okay.
Yeah, and that international finance. The thing is, we don't have any exam like in January.
Okay.
Is there any reason to don't
We
have
have
it?
this BOP thing.
I mean, I know what they're doing in America. I don't know in China. In America, and I would assume it's similar in China, when you get to the times when people are likely to get together and congregate, it'd be great if there was no class by that point. You know, it's not the best time. Now, we're doing things on Zoom, but just for safety, you know, before January 1st, if things can pretty much be done, that's probably the best. So nobody's tempted, for example, to go somewhere out with friends and then go somewhere else. Certainly in America, that's the concern, that they ended most colleges here already. It's maybe the earliest I've ever seen it end, but they ended it by Thanksgiving, which was the end of November. And the reason was they figured if students are going to go home to see their families, they shouldn't come back to school, just stay at home. So I don't know if that's China's thinking, but I know this is a short semester. We're pretty much missing a week of the semester, but okay. Anyway, we're now 15 minutes into class. So let's make sure we get through this. There's actually not too much that I want to cover today. There's one extra thing I might want to, but not too much. So let's get into it. And then when we're done, we can talk a little more about the final. So what we're talking about today is finishing up incentives.
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Of course.
So the final exam will be open from Tuesday, like 12 a.m. to the Wednesday, 12 a.m., right?
So Beijing time, speaking in Beijing time, it would be open from like 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. or something until midnight.
Okay.
The entire Tuesday, Beijing time.
So it cannot be like go over Wednesday, like Wednesday after 12 a.m. It won't be that.
That's the plan right now. Again, I said I'm pretty flexible on this. So if you need it at a different time or it's a lot better for you at a different time, just let me know. Just talk to me about it. You know, for now, I'll say Tuesday. Anybody who has any concerns or wants time changes, just let me know.
I have a question. If we take it like 1 hour before midnight, it's not gonna close, right? We still have a chance to finish it.
Yes, it will not close. And I can make it closed at 3 a.m. It doesn't have to be midnight. You know, that's fine also. But no, it won't close. Technically, what would happen is it would be marked late, but I would know it's not late because I'll look at the start time. Okay. Okay, so last week we started talking about incentives and benefits. And I put up the video for the first part of this. There's one more video to put up for the second part of this. This is a 2-video subject because it's pretty big. So what I talk about, and I mentioned this in the video also, is that we separate, you know, compensation and incentives, right? So for compensation, that was the first thing we had learned. Some of the really important things that you need to know for the final exam would be, first of all, the purpose of compensation. And I've given you guys 12 different things that are important in compensation. You don't need to know all 12, but what you do need to know is that you need internal equity. You need external equity. You need the managers to be on board and the higher executives to agree to it. You need the employees to agree to the compensation package. You need it to be flexible. You need it to be not too expensive or complicated. And then you need it to be suitable for motivation and growth. And that's kind of what you need in a good compensation program. After that, we talked about the 4 elements of a good compensation program, which were equity factors, policy factors, legal factors, and some other factor. Anybody remember? What's the other factor? I forgot this on the video too. What are the 4 factors? Can anybody get it before me? Union, that was the 4th.
Oh.
Policy, equity, legal, and union. So those 4 factors we talked about. And then really the big thing in that subject was, how do you calculate the compensation? And that was the 5-step process of external equity, which we called the salary survey, internal equity, which we called relative worth, and that includes compensable factors. Then 3rd, pay grades, then wage curves, and then rate ranges. And that 5-step process is 100% on the final. You know, there's no question that you need to understand that, especially the idea of relative worth and compensable factors. The idea of using points and quantitative measurements to determine compensation. That's quite important. And then that was pretty much, then at the end, we talked about different payment structures. Well, we talked a little about payment for managers, things like stock options. Then we talked about payment structures like variable pay, single rate pay, merit pay, gain sharing, broadbanding. All of these were just kind of payment structures. And then last week, we started talking about incentives and benefits. We started by talking about motivation and different types of motivation. Then we talked a little about recognition-based awards and the idea of non-financial benefits. You know, and those could include all of these things we said last week, like giving people more challenging work assignments. That's non-financial, it's not money, but it still is some sort of incentive if people want that. If they don't want a challenging work assignment, maybe they want a bigger office. Maybe they just want compliments. Maybe they want to set their own goals. Maybe they want encouragement. Maybe they want more learning. Maybe, you know, like these are all possible things. None of these cost money. I mean, I guess you could say learning or continuous improvement costs money, but not really. So all of these things are legitimate ways to give people incentives that are non-financial. After that, we talked a little about commissions, just to make sure everybody was clear on what commissions are. Then we talked about team plans and team incentives, things like profit sharing is a sort of a team incentive plan. And then we started talking about organization-wide plans. And we talked first about ESOP. Anais, can you tell me what is the ESOP plan? What is ESOP?
It's Shiba, like I'm reading now, but I don't really remember.
All right, Chandra, do you remember what is ESOP?
It's like employee benefit, which plans like gives workers ownership interest in the company.
Now, that's correct. Now, when you start working, do you immediately get the stock?
No.
No,
so it's like
so,
options?
well, it's not options. Let's be clear on what the difference is between stock options and an ESOP. So stock options, can you explain that to me, Anais?
Well, it's basically like they give you the option to purchase stocks of the company at a certain price, but you can't buy it yet. You have to wait till like a couple of years in. And the advantage is that it can be cheaper than the price that it is at the time that you want to buy it. So you can make money by selling it out. by giving it up after.
Sure. So it is an option, right? You're not getting the stock. You're getting the right to purchase the stock. Landry, you there?
Yes.
Explain this to me again, please. What is a stock option?
Is the option to, after working for a time at the company, to, like, do you have the right to buy some stocks of the company at a cheaper price?
Okay. So you have a right to buy it at a cheaper price. Okay. So yes, that's right. So when you get your job at the company, then they will decide what's the cheaper price. And then you have the right for however many years to buy the stock at that price. And the reason is they want the price to go up, and then everybody makes money. The company makes money because the price went up, and you make money because you can buy it at the cheaper price. Now that's different from an ESOP, which is they give you stock, the company gives you stock. But the company doesn't just give you stock as soon as you start working. There are 3 times you might get the stock. You could get the stock when you retire. That's one possibility. Or when you leave the company, like you quit, or when you've worked long enough. So think of all of the big tech companies in America, like Microsoft, Google, Facebook, Apple, things like that, maybe even like Twitter, Snapchat, when they started, but Microsoft is kind of the classic example. When Microsoft started, they didn't have a lot of money, and so they didn't pay a salary to a lot of people. They just gave stocks. It wasn't an option, it was the stock, but you don't get it immediately. It's not like you get it on the first day working at Microsoft. You have to work there for a little while. And then when you leave the company, so can anybody tell me, anybody remember, what's that called, that you have to work there for a little while to get the stock?
So, no, oh my God.
Vest?
Vest,
Yes.
vessel, vest.
Thank you, vest. So vest is a verb, to vest, and it means that you have to work there for a while and then you have the right to get this stock. It could be 6 months, it could be a year, it could be 2 years, it could be 5 years, different at different companies. But then when you have worked there for a while, then you have the right to get this stock. And you get it when you leave the company or retirement, or just after 2 years or 5 years or whatever. You know, if you're running the company in HR, you get to decide. And there are a lot of benefits to this. Obviously, in something like Microsoft, the benefit was the employees would work very hard, even though they didn't get a good salary. And they would work hard because they believed in the company, and they were right to. As I said on the video, I actually know someone who started working in Microsoft when it first opened. He was like 23 or 24. He said it was crazy. Everybody would bring their dogs to work, and there were toys all over the ground. And it was like a giant party every day, and nobody made any money. People couldn't pay their rent. And yet he retired a multimillionaire at like age 35 because the stocks were just so valuable. He was paid in stock, but he had to work there a couple of years to vest the stock, for the stock to vest. So it's, you know, definitely a way that businesses, it's an incentive or a benefit that businesses give sometimes instead of a salary. Christine, would you accept stock instead of a salary if you believed in the company?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah, but they could get really rich, I think.
You can. I mean, it's possible. You know, these days it's kind of similar to people who get paid in Bitcoin. You know, you're taking a risk, but sometimes that risk will pay off. So that was one risk, one sort of incentive or benefit we talked about. The next one we talked about was Gainsharing. And we talked about the Scanlon plan, which was an example of Gainsharing. So can you explain this to me, Misha?
Yeah, gain sharing is like offering a bonus to the group in general for their increase in productivity.
What do you mean increase in productivity?
That means increasing or decreasing rather how much they cost. Like they're
Okay.
yeah.
Sure. So yeah, so when we say productivity, we don't mean like how fast are you working? Although that would be productivity because that would decrease our costs. If it takes you 10 hours in order to produce one, let's say it takes 10 hours for our team to produce, to plan an event. Let's say we're an events planning company in Shanghai, and it takes us 10 hours to plan an event. Well, if we can plan it in 5 hours, then we've increased our productivity because now in 10 hours, we can plan 2 events and we'll make more money. So the idea is, now to do this, if you guys are my employees and we're an events planning company, if we can work faster or reduce our costs, let's say we start doing everything on Zoom and we don't need an office anymore. Okay, we've reduced the costs. And now the reduction in cost, I'm going to share with all of you guys. But to do this on like the Scanlon plan, which is a pretty common gain sharing plan, there are a couple things we need to make sure of. So for one, we need to make sure that you guys feel like it isn't David is the owner and we are the employees. It has to feel like we're all in this together. You need to feel a sense of ownership in the company because you need to help me increase our productivity. Work faster, work smarter, save money. If you don't care about the company, if you just feel like an employee, why would you care if the CEO makes more money? If you graduate from school and you get a job and your first job is in a big Chinese company, or let's say you're working in NIO. NIO is a big Chinese company that makes electric cars. So you're working in NIO. Now, do you feel like you own the company? No. Why do you care if the Chinese CEO makes more money? You don't. But the idea of a gain sharing plan is that you do feel like this is my company. I work here. I have a sense of ownership. And one of the ways to do that is to say, if you can help the company to increase productivity, you'll actually make more money. We'll all make more money. So you also need to understand the mission of the company. You need to have a high level of competence. You need to have some way to give suggestions to the CEO when you have a good idea about how we could save time. And then it has to be really clear, the formula for how I decide how we split the extra profit. Is it 10% to me and then the rest to everybody else? Or is it 80% to me and then the rest to everybody else? I mean, it's got to be really transparent. This idea of gain sharing does not work unless the employees believe we are all in this together. And to do that, you really need a sense of trust. Is that clear to everybody? Gain sharing is really valuable and a very good modern way to increase productivity, but it does really require a high level of trust. And then we started last week, and this is pretty much where we stopped, by talking about individual benefits. So what we talked about so far, first we talked about recognition-based benefits, that's non-financial. Then we talked about team benefits. Then we talked about organization benefits, like gain sharing, where everybody in the organization could get this benefit. Now let's talk about individual benefits. And I ended last class by asking you guys what was the most important benefit to you if you were working. And if you remember, most people said vacations, holidays, learning, things like that, training. And I said, most employees actually say healthcare is the most important. And most people are not satisfied. Only 1/3 of employees are satisfied with their healthcare. So healthcare is a real issue that we need to deal with in HRM. But let's start today by talking about these individual benefits that HR provides people. HR is incredibly important in this sense. I mean, there's so many reasons HR is critical to a business. And I hope that over the course of this semester, you've kind of come to understand just how important HR is. That without a good HR, a company doesn't have good recruitment, it doesn't have good selection, and that already is just critical. Because if you can't get a pool of candidates and choose the right ones by using all kinds of testing methods, I mean, it's just, it's the death of the business after a long time. It's just, you're trying to just use luck or intuition. And then after that, with training and appraisal, that's absolutely critical to train your workers and to know what is considered to be good and bad performance, and to have benchmarks and to know all of these different evaluation methods we've learned. And then now finally, compensation and benefits. Again, really critical. You know, HR does all of these tremendously important things to make sure a business is effective. So there's 6 benefit areas. First, we're going to talk about the trends of how benefits have changed over time. Then we're going to talk about the objectives. What is the purpose of benefit programs? And by now, you should pretty much be able to guess, because it's always the same thing in HR. The purpose is, anybody want to guess? What's the purpose of benefit programs? I'll tell you, it's the same thing as training programs, compensation programs, appraisal programs. It's all the same purpose.
Make employees happy?
That's part of it. Make them happy. Why?
To improve productivity.
That's
Achieve
part of
their
it.
goals, the goal of the company.
Okay, so that's a big part of it, to achieve the goal of the company. Now, if I'm a manager or vice president or CEO, do I care if my employees are happy? I mean, I can't sleep at night because my employees aren't happy? I don't know. Some people might, but I don't know if a CEO cares if their employees are happy. What they want is they want their employees to have loyalty and not quit. Really, it comes down to 3 things. Number 1, attracting good people. Number 2, keeping those people so they don't quit, retaining. And then number 3, motivating people. Attracting, retaining, motivating. That's kind of what it comes down to. And that's really the truth for training. You want to attract good people, you want to retain the people, and you want to motivate the people. That's true for compensation. That's true for appraisal. You know, this is kind of it's the same thing like with what Nicholas said. The organization's goals need to be aligned with the individual goals. That's also true in recruitment, in selection, in every area of HR. So first, we're going to talk about the trends, then the objectives. We'll talk about which benefits are required by law. Then we'll talk about different types of benefit plans. We'll talk about how do you select an insurance carrier. I know it's a very exciting subject. And then how do you fund the insurance? So HR is interesting in the sense that people think it's boring, but it's like, it's the backbone of a company. I mean, it just really is. If CEOs and the executives are the brain of the company and they decide what the company does, and the employees and the administrative staff and everything are the hands and the feet of the company that actually do things, HR is the backbone. And without a good HR program, the company just falls apart. I've seen, especially in China, I think I told you guys a story where I was working for Alibaba. They were trying to make a theater group to make TV shows, and they did a bad job of recruitment. They did a bad job of selection, and they just took pretty much any actor who came, and they just wasted millions of dollars. Nothing happened. Of course, nothing happened. And in fact, they ended up going out and buying a group of people I had worked with in the past, and they're fine. They're nothing special. They're not going to change the world. They're not going to, it's not what Alibaba wanted. And Alibaba's a big company. They're innovative, but without this backbone, So, okay, let's start with trends. What was the trend in benefits? Well, if you're looking back to the 1920s or the 1890s, industrialization and urbanization, when people left farms and started moving into the big cities, there were no benefits. There was no health care. There was no retirement. This is all modern stuff. This really didn't start until the 1940s, I want to say. And in the 40s and 50s at that time, there was a very specific benefits package, which was doctors were not as expensive, and there was at the beginnings of Social Security and the beginnings of government regulation. And so you still really didn't have clear benefits. Benefits were not for employees, they were for managers. And that was it. Managers were the only ones who got the benefits. And it really didn't change until around the 1960s. So in the 1960s, you started to get this idea of benefits being competitive. This was the first time that companies started trying to use benefits packages as a way to attract employees. That started in the 1960s. Before that, benefits were just something for managers. All the employees, they just got their compensation. And during that time, the 40s and 50s, the government, and I'm talking about America, because America was one of the places that kind of pioneered HR. During that time, the government was starting to put more regulations into place about Social Security, about the FLSA, the maximum work hours, child labor and work ages, the maximum number of working days, different rules about exempt and non-exempt jobs. All of that stuff started in the 40s and 50s. Now, in the 1960s, you began to have retirement. Retirement became an issue for everybody. This is when you started to get, 40s, 50s, 60s in America, you started to get this idea of middle class. And middle class pretty much meant you have a husband and a wife and a house and a car and 2 kids and a vacation once a year. And that was this idea of middle class. And to be even more specific, usually the man was working and the woman was at home, was a housewife. That was this idea in the 40s and 50s. And that started to change in the 60s. But so by the 1960s, there was this idea that even employees should be able to retire comfortably. And so retirement packages were beginning to be increased. And this is when the government started making policies that we'll talk about in a little bit with retirement and what kind of benefits you get with retirement. You also started to have more medical benefits, not just for managers, but for everybody. You started to have life insurance instead of just health insurance. You started to have better sick days and vacations and holidays. So at this point in the 60s, this became a benefits package. This was the first time that language was being used, and that a different benefits package was offered at Ford versus Dodge or Chrysler or IBM, or where all these big companies would offer competitive packages. In the 70s, there was a younger workforce. This is when the baby boomers, their parents had come back from World War II and had children, in the 50s. And now in the 70s, these children were turning 21, graduating college and starting to work. And at that point, you had all these young people who were the baby boomers, and they wanted more immediate benefits. They didn't want to just think about retirement. They wanted benefits now, more training, more learning, more vacation, more dental coverage, vision coverage, things like that, that weren't really issues so much before. There also started to be already in the 1970s some problems with Social Security. Social Security was a government policy, and most countries have something like this, where the government gives money to you when you retire. Now, the general problem that most countries have, and America was the first country to kind of do this, and they have the problem that everybody has, which is Social Security was made in the 1940s or even earlier. And It was made with the idea that the general life expectancy, how long did people expect to live, was around 65 years. The average lifespan was 65 years. So you get Social Security when you turn 65, but most people didn't live far beyond that. Now in America, and this happened in all countries, I shouldn't say all countries, in many countries, people started living longer. So now in America, you can live until you're 80, 90, 100. And it doesn't work if you start getting benefits when you're 65. The system was meant to give benefits to people, to give money and Social Security to retired people for 5 years, for 3 years, not for 40 years. And so the baby boomers who were starting to go to work in the 70s, this is when medical technology was improving. And instead of the lifespan being 65, the lifespan became 75 or 85. There just wasn't enough money for Social Security. At this point, flexible benefit plans became more popular because the younger people in the workforce didn't want this husband, wife, 2 kids package anymore. Also, as all of these things happened, the prices of all of these benefits started to become clear to companies, and companies started to balance this idea of giving the employees what they need at the same time having cost containment. So in the 1940s, benefits were only for managers. In the 1960s, benefits started to be for everybody, but the costs were already increasing. By the 1970s, there was this idea of all these young people wanting flexible benefits and expecting good packages, but companies needing to control the costs. In the 1980s, here's where you already get less and less benefits. So retirement plans are now being reduced. Organizations are trying to save administrative costs. Employees are asked to pay for their own benefits, right? You get this already in the 1980s. The benefit packages were no longer. So, this is interesting when you think about HR. You talk about, or people talk about the American middle class and how in America, everybody gets these packages. That was only true for about 20 years. Out of the history of, the world, 20 or 30 years was really the time in America where the economy was just taking off. And it was really post-World War II. America is a military country. And post-World War II, America was sort of the world power. And that is the period of time where benefits were just taking off. This isn't true anymore. I mean, companies can't afford to do this anymore. So now in the 20th century, in the modern world, some of the trends, Social Security benefits are going to go bye-bye. People are not going to keep getting Social Security. It's not going to really work. The retirement age is being raised. So a lot of people don't retire at 65 anymore. A lot of people keep working. Most of these flexible benefits that were seen in the 70s are now paid for by the employees. Less retirement benefits. More of this idea of profit sharing and gain sharing. More of this idea of, hey, employees, we don't have that much money. If you can help us to improve, then we'll share the benefits with you. But if you can't help us to improve, well then, sorry, we just don't have the money for your retirement. So pretty big issues going on in today's world. Another reason why HR is so important. Some other issues going on, the idea of term insurance versus whole life insurance. So in the 40s and 50s and 60s, you would get whole life insurance, which means your company would give you an insurance policy that lasts until you die. Now, they don't give you that anymore. You get term insurance. So you work for 1 year, you have 1 year health insurance. That's it. 401ks, we'll talk about that in a few minutes, but that's a kind of tax-advantaged retirement account where it has a defined contribution. Annuities. So annuities are money that you can put in the bank for something like a pension or a mortgage that usually, or paying for insurance that is not taxed. So companies are offering, and the government is offering, different tax benefits these days. Mutual funds. So now these days, a lot of companies, their retirement, instead of just putting the money in the bank and then giving it to everybody when they retire, they put the money into mutual funds, which is riskier, but has a greater reward. The problem is, as we've seen in the modern world, sometimes either the funds go bankrupt, or if there's a financial collapse and all the stocks go down, people can lose their retirement money. Or a lot of times there's theft and you have a CEO who steals all the retirement money. That has happened too. In addition to these things, there are more wellness programs. And this is actually very Chinese in the sense that it's not about health insurance and fixing your illness now. It's about preventative medicine and preventing you from getting sick. So we're talking about yoga, acupuncture, meditation, all of the things that, food, nutrition, diet, exercise, stress reduction, all of that are considered wellness programs. Things, because companies are starting to realize in the modern world, if I prevent my employees from getting sick, I save a lot of money, right? It's really expensive when the employees get sick. It would be a lot better if you could just pay for yoga and meditation and a nutritionist and diet and whatever, and then your employees don't get sick. You save a lot of money. And then finally, employee assistance, EAP. EAP programs started in the 1970s. They were originally for employees who had problems with alcohol. Because what had happened in the 1940s and 50s is when people had a problem with alcohol, they were often just put in the back of the house. They were taken away from the customers, but they weren't fired. But this was terrible for the companies because now you have somebody who has a serious problem, they're a drain on the resources, and then sometimes they would just be fired. But in the 70s, we started to get more regulations, and EAP became a program saying you can't just fire someone if they have a problem with alcohol. You need to give them some treatment. Now, then EAP expanded to drugs, and then it expanded to pretty much all of the recovery-based things. People might have overeating problems or gambling problems or addiction to spending or buying things, or, people can have lots of different addictions. And so EAP helps with that. And then EAP was expanded even further to help people find jobs, to help people with child care, just all kinds of things to help employees. So now talking to the objectives. The objectives of a benefits program. Well, part of the objective is to contain the costs, because we talked already last week, the last 2 weeks, about compensation. And that's going to be about 70% of the company cost is paying for all the salaries of the employees. And this is just talking about the money that is spent for employees. We're not talking about renting your office or overhead or paying for the materials that you need or buying machines. We're just talking about compensation. So the money that the company spends for compensation, 70% of it goes directly to salaries. That leaves 30%. Now, only for legally required benefits, you're only talking about almost 8%. And that leaves 22% of costs that we could in HR try to keep low and keep small. So one of the big goals overall is to keep costs low. With all of these paid leaves and supplemental bonuses and health insurance and retirement and savings, and all of these things can get pretty messy. So in addition to keeping the costs low, as I said, we want to attract people. We want to retain people to reduce turnover. And we want to make sure we increase motivation and growth. You can call it morale, you can call it productivity, you can call it satisfaction or work-life balance. But ultimately, we want to attract people, retain people, and provide for motivation. Those are our primary objectives. There is a very clear relationship between employee satisfaction with benefits and loyalty. So studies have shown a direct relationship between benefits satisfaction. Are you satisfied with the benefits at your company and loyalty? Employees who are satisfied with their benefits are 3 times more likely to be satisfied with their jobs and feel loyalty. So benefits are really critical for a feeling of safety. Having a high salary is nice, but it doesn't necessarily give the same feeling of safety that retirement and health insurance does. Those two especially. Okay, so let's start talking about what benefits are required. So the first required benefit is paying into Social Security, and this comes from 1935. So this is pretty much the first one. And this was meant for people who pretty much are, you know, in 1935, the average expected life age was around 65. So this kicks in when you turn 65. And the employee contributes monthly. So this comes out of your taxes, right? You have to pay your Social Security. And then the employer must match the contribution. So you don't have to think about it or worry about it. If you have a legal job, the government will take out part of this money every month, and then the company has to match that. The company has to pay into Social Security every month. This is a very big cost. So in the 1950s, this was extended. Like I said, in the 40s, all of these benefits were, you know, just for managers. In the 50s, coverage was extended pretty much for everybody. And in 1972, the government made it so there's an increase per year. And Social Security really isn't enough to live in America. You couldn't really just live on Social Security, but it's still a significant amount of money. I think it's around $600 a week. No, maybe it's a month. 24. Yeah, it would have to be $600 a month. So it's not great money, but it's something. It depends where you live. You couldn't live in, you know, London or New York City, or, you know, but you could live, or, you know, Los Angeles, but you can live places on Social Security. And like I said, I mean, there's no way it's really going to survive in its current form.
David, is there like a range of it, like the minimum and maximum?
No.
Depends on the contribution or not?
No.
Always.
So it depends on the state, but Social Security is a federal program. So I'll give you a real life example. My mother has a boyfriend, and her boyfriend, Larry, if anybody wanted to know his name, he retired when he was 55. He was a teacher, a music teacher. He retired when he was 55. He's now over 80, and he has received Social Security for 65, 75, I mean, 20 something years he's been retired. He's been retired as long as many of you have been alive. You know, it's unbelievable, because that is the baby boomer generation. I'm Gen X. You know, we say for Gen X, we just sit back and watch the world burn. But, you know, for baby boomers like that generation, I mean, come on, I'm retiring at 55. That's unheard of. You know, for my generation is going to be, I'm very fortunate that I like my job. I love what I do. So it's okay. I mean, being a professor, I can keep doing this and plan to and hope to. But yeah, I mean, that's the previous generation was retiring at 55 or 60 and now living until 80 something, and then just getting money from the government, you know? So there's no maximum. He could live to be 200. I hope he does. And then he will continue to get these benefits. Now, there are other benefits that are required by law. So Medicare, in America, we have two. We have Medicare and Medicaid. If you're over 65, everybody gets Medicare. And again, every month the employee pays tax and the employer must contribute also. So again, this is a cost at your company and you get it over 65. So once you're over 65, this pays for most of your hospital and medical bills. And medical bills in America are insane. There was recently a story in America. Somebody had gotten, well, there were two stories recently in the news, but the price of an MRI, if you know what that is, it's like a CAT scan, but a magnetic resonance image where you lay down and they can, see your brain and stuff. In America, that costs $3,500 to get an MRI. In China, it costs about $80, which tells you that it doesn't need to cost $3,500, right? It costs $80 in China, but that's what people charge. And the insurance companies and the hospitals, the payments are just kind of outrageous in America. Now, Medicaid is a little different. Medicaid is for people who are below the poverty level. Now, if you're below the poverty level in America, so you'd be considered, the word poor is not really the word we would use, but that's kind of what we're talking about. In that case, the government will pay for all of your medical benefits, but you cannot own assets. So at that point, you would have given, you would have sold your house, you would have sold your car, anything you don't need. You wouldn't have a lot of money in the bank because then you're not at the poverty level. You have to be at the poverty level to get it. Next is unemployment. So unemployment insurance, this has been big in the news since COVID times, but this is income. If you become unemployed, and here's the key, through no fault of your own. If you are fired for cause, you're fired because you did something bad, you don't get unemployment. And you don't get it if you quit. You are not eligible if you left your job voluntarily, or if you were terminated for gross misconduct. That's the same thing as saying you were terminated for fault. So for cause, you did something wrong. So let's say that you come late to work every day. And I say, listen, you're a teacher. You can't come late to class every day, but you don't care. You come late to class every day. And then I fire you. Do you get unemployment, Christine?
Sorry?
You come late every day to class and you're a teacher and you work at my school. So I say, Christine, I'm going to give you a chance. Just stop coming late. And then you keep coming late. And I say, sorry, Christine, I'm going to give you 30 days notice and you're fired. Do you get unemployment insurance?
No. Oh,
No.
yes.
No.
Oh, no.
Why not?
Because you had a warning or something?
Oh, Juan, you there? Juan F. Montilla. Montilla? Montilla. I don't know how you say it.
I'm here.
And how would I say your last name?
Mantilla.
Montilla.
Mantilla, like yeah.
Okay, Montilla. So, Mr. Montilla, if you come late to work every day and I fire you, do you get unemployment insurance?
I don't.
Correct. Why?
Well, I don't know. I was nodding here.
Chandra, why doesn't Mr. Montilla get unemployment insurance?
Not sure, sir.
Anybody? He came late every day, so I fired him. Ethan, why doesn't he get unemployment?
Because it was his fault that he's late, and he doesn't. Yeah,
it's his fault. I had a good reason to fire him. Misconduct. He came late. If you get fired and it's your fault, you don't get this benefit. You only get unemployment if you were fired and it's not your fault, through no fault of their own. Now, if you're getting unemployment, you need to look for a job. You must actively seek employment. You can't just sit at home eating Captain Crunch, for anybody who knows what that is, and watching cartoons and get unemployment. You have to look for a job. You don't have to look hard, I'll tell you that, but you do have to look. I've never collected unemployment, so I don't know what it's like.
Just
But
send out a couple resumes and that's about it.
essentially, that's my understanding, is you send
Yeah,
a couple
works.
resumes to places, you have to prove. Now, the scary thing is if you get the job, you have to take it, right? You cannot refuse suitable employment.
So I've never, obviously being Canadian, it's a little different, but when I worked in like GM building cars, get laid off all the time. So it's like, I'd been on unemployment for like 6-8 months and just
Right.
like,
I've heard good
literally
things
just,
about it.
yeah, literally it's like, it was $800 Canadian every 2 weeks just to sit
That's
at home.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's,
It's like
yeah.
you pay into it, but then you also pay tax on it as well. So it's like, it feels a little cheap, but at the same time, if you're not
Hey.
working and it's free money, like all
For
things
someone like
considered.
me, I pay tax into unemployment and I've never collected unemployment.
See, and that's exactly the grind there. You're like,
Yeah.
Ethan, did you get the unemployment food? I think in America they give like food for unemployed people too.
no, it's
Food?
like not a
Yeah,
food
I
line.
think that's
You don't go
like
to the food bank. It's nothing like
unemployment
that.
cheese.
So
It's
No.
literally
No.
called unemployment cheese.
no, it's
No.
with $800 you can survive every 2 weeks.
You can
I
buy
mean,
your own.
I blew it all. I lived at home with my dad. I spent it all on.
Don't
But-
answer that. Don't finish that sentence. So
2 weeks just flew by.
cheese. You spent it all on cheese. So what you're thinking of, Misha, is this idea of government cheese. That literally is from the Great Depression. That's from the 1940s, where people were standing in food lines and get government cheese. They still do have government cheese. This is for food stamps. So America, if you are below the poverty level, the government can give you food stamps. They're not really stamps, but they kind of, they're little scripts, they're pieces of paper, and you can trade them at many different supermarkets and places like that for food. There are things you can't buy with them. So there are problems like you can't buy diapers or a lot of children's necessities. I know that from an Eminem song. That's my evidence that you can't buy diapers with food stamps. That's not good evidence. I should get better evidence than that.
You're an Eminem fan?
Yes,
Sir, can you explain the difference between Medicare and Medicaid?
yes, sure. Medicare, so funny. Everybody gets Medicare. Everybody over 65 gets Medicare. It's just a benefit that older people get to help with their medical payments. Medicaid is only for people below the poverty level. That's it. Is that clear?
So if you're 65 and you're poor, do you get Medicare and Medicaid?
You don't need it. They're the same thing. So no, you just get Medicaid.
But in the PPT's Medicare.
I'm sorry?
In the PPTs, it's right down Medicare, but you said Medicaid.
They're two different things. Medicare, everybody gets. So, for example, my mother and her boyfriend, Larry, they both have Medicare because they're over 65. Now, it doesn't matter how much money they have. It doesn't matter if they are rich or if they are poor. They would get Medicare. I have a friend whose family, they had bad times and the mother got cancer and it cost a lot of money and they kind of lost everything. Now the father is old and he's ill and the family has no money at all. He gets Medicaid. The benefits that you get are not very different. The benefits that my mother would get on Medicare, and my mother worked in schools her whole life, and so did her boyfriend. So they have more of a pension, which is not a required benefit. A pension is like retirement. So it is like Social Security. It's when you retire, you get this certain amount of money, but jobs don't have to give this to you. Many jobs don't anymore. But in the 1960s or 50s, all jobs, 70s even, all jobs gave you pensions. So my mother, having worked at a school, this is a personal class. I feel like this is probably the most personal class. My mother would get a pension. And my friend's father, who fell on hard times, he gets a pension too, but he's still below the poverty level. So he gets Medicaid. So all states in America have this unemployment insurance. And yeah, as I said, it can't be, if you're fired for cause, you don't get the benefit. The next one is, and this is kind of, if one of your employees is injured on the job, should the employer have to pay? What if it happens during a team building event? What if it happens at a picnic? What do you think? What do you think, Christine? If you're injured during a team building event or at a company picnic, should the company have to pay for you?
Yeah, because
Why?
I went to the team building event for the company. So if I get hurt on the site or wherever it is, then yeah, they should pay for me.
Okay. And this was really probably the first benefit that was offered. This came from 1910. And this is called workers' compensation. This is a special kind of insurance. Again, it's required everywhere. And it is money if someone gets hurt accidentally or dies during the course of employment. This is paid for by the employer, okay, workers' comp. So you don't need, as an employee, you don't need to pay for this. The rate, how much money the company pays, is based on the number of claims. So the more careless the company is, and the more people get hurt, the more they'd have to pay. And the benefits could include anything: death benefits, rehab, disability, anything. And it can also be during non-work activities if it's job related, like a team building or a company picnic. So this is also a required benefit that companies need to pay, is they need to put money into their workers' comp.
Can workers still sue the company if they, still
Sure.
give it to them?
Sure, absolutely. Workers' compensation isn't, it's not millions of dollars. So if there was an accidental death or if someone got really injured, they might still sue the company. Okay, next is, we talked about the FLSA before. This is the FMLA, which is for family and medical leave. And this has to do with like maternity and paternity. So this says, this isn't money, but this says you can take up to 12 weeks unpaid leave during any year if you need to. Now, this is only for companies that have at least 50 employees. You have to have worked for at least 1 year. I'm not going to ask you to know this. This is too many details. But, this is anything related to family pretty much. Taking care of your parents, taking care of a child, dealing with adoption, taking care of a spouse, your husband or wife. It really doesn't matter. You automatically get this right. The only thing that's kind of relevant about this, the only thing that's relevant to know is if you're working for my company, let's say, and let's say, Christine, you're a teacher at my company, and you have 10 sick days per year, okay? And you have not used them yet. Now, you want to take time off from the company to take care of, whatever, your child, your husband, whatever. You want to take time off. I can tell you, you must use those 10 sick days first. So sure, you can take the time off. I have to let you, according to the family and medical leave, I have to let you. But the first 10 days that you take off, those are counting as your sick days. You can't take off this time and also have sick days. This is,
it's like,
why?
It's not the...
Why? Why? Because rich people write the laws. The short answer. Why? That's not fair. Of course it's not fair. But It's because of productivity. I don't want you to take 2-3 weeks off and then also, or 12 weeks off. I don't want you to take months off and then also take sick days off. You know, it generally is related to a lack of trust.
So sorry, I'm a little bit confused. So you have this annual leave, I don't know, maybe 20 days, and you have like 10 sick days, right?
Okay,
Something
so
like
you're
that.
talking about, so okay,
Yeah.
and we'll talk about this in a second because we'll jump into something called time not worked benefits. Time not worked benefits includes things like sick leave and vacations and holidays. Now, in some jobs, like traditionally, these are separate. You get your holidays, that's government. You get your vacation, like you said, 20 days. No, you're not living in America. Most Americans don't get 20 days. Most Americans get 2 weeks if they're lucky. You know,
Really?
yeah. America has one of the lowest vacation times in the world. A lot of people get 10 days a year. Very low, yeah. A lot of developed countries give a month, but America gets 10 days. And then you have sick leave, which is like, you know, maybe 10 days a year. Now, traditionally, those are separate. In modern times, with this idea of flexibility, a lot of companies have started to put these together and say something like, listen, you know, you have 20 days per year. Holiday, sick day, wellness day, you want to just take a break for any reason, whatever, you have 20 days a year, use them as you will. That's a little more modern, you know, but traditionally they are separate.
Yeah, but they say the first that you get will be the sick day.
Well, if you want to take time off to be with your family, if that's your reason, then the boss can require the employees to take any unused sick days or annual leave as part of this 12 weeks.
Okay.
I mean, this is, you know, they say in America, people live to work, and in Europe, people work to live. This is part of the issues that are coming up now. And it's in some ways even worse in China. I mentioned, I think in our last class, the 996, Jojo Liu. The idea that people work from 9 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night, 6 days a week.
Yes, yes.
You know, China has, one of the things that's come up in the last couple of years is, you know, China has a law that says you are required by law to visit your parents a reasonable amount of times per year. You have to, by law. You can go to jail if you don't visit your parents.
What would be a reasonable time?
So the reason they said that is because it is different, but typically, originally it was like once a month. And the problem was that's not realistic. While it is kind of reasonable to visit your parents once a month, that would be lovely, but it's not realistic because most people, China's a big country, and a lot of people work far away in a different city. They don't have the money to travel an 18-hour train ride or something back once a month. And here's the big issue. The employer, the boss, is not required to give you time off for this. And so now it's been construed to be about once every 6 months, once every 3 months or 6 months. Look it up on Google. People have been sued. Parents have sued their kids for not visiting enough. It's pretty funny. I mean, it's some of the cases. So, because the parents who sue, I'm not trying to have no empathy. The parents who sue, sometimes they just want their kid to visit more and they don't want their kid to leave. It's kind of cute. So anyway.
It's too easy to sue people in America, I think.
America is very litigious. You know, this is the good and bad, the two sides of the coin of having a country that is so focused on law. There are good things about it too, you know, but yes, absolutely, people will sue people for all kinds of things. However, that's a Chinese rule, not an American rule. In America, you could never say you're required to visit your family. That would not be a very American thing to do. Okay, now let's talk about these time not worked benefits. And I know we're getting close to our halfway point, so we'll take a break in a minute, but let's just get into this. So time not worked. this could be a variety of reasons that you're not working. It could be because you're on vacation or you're sick. It could be because you're unemployed, so you're not working. Jury duty is a very American idea, right? I've never had jury duty, but nobody would choose me for jury duty. Anybody ever do jury duty? No?
No, but I always remember. I don't know if you have seen The Office.
Sure.
I always remember Toby's jury.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Strangler.
So yeah, so the thing is, for jury duty as a lawyer, because I'm a lawyer, they would never choose a lawyer. Lawyers are never chosen. So, for jury duty, they have something called voir dire. As a lawyer, we choose who sits on the jury in this process called voir dire. And in the process, voir dire in French is like see-say, because you see someone and you ask them questions and they're going to answer it. And if they would ask me, are you a lawyer? I'd say yes. They'd say you're excused, because a lawyer is going to try to convince the other people of the law. So if we're sitting around 12 people sitting around deciding if someone's guilty and everybody knows I'm a lawyer, they're just going to ask me, David, what's the law? At least that's often what happens. So they don't want lawyers as part of a jury. And then military duty, you might not be working for that reason. So let's talk about the first ones first. Vacations and holidays. On average, Americans get 9 days per year. Goes up to about 11 days after 3 years. Really, really, really small. Mexico, though, is 6 days. I mean, this is the last time I checked. Any of you guys know the required amount of, or typical amount of vacations that you get in your countries?
Usually in Colombia, we get 15.
Where?
In Colombia.
In Colombia, 15? Okay.
Yeah, in Brazil it's like 20, but 20 it's
20
not
days?
during the weekend. Yes, not during the like the regular days.
20 working days.
Yes, 20 working days.
Oh, that's nice.
Per year.
That's like a month. What's
Yes.
Korea? Chandra, do you know?
Oh, I'm not sure about Korea.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, France is good. They give a good amount of time, but it's amazing. It's amazing how little time companies really do give for vacations. China usually starts at around 10 days also per year. But China has pretty good government holidays, as you know. They have like week-long government holidays and stuff. Sick leave. So most companies in America give about 12 days per year. Some employees use these as personal days. This became an issue. These days, people are more relaxed about it a little bit because they're trying to make it more flexible. And this was the idea of what's called pooled leave plans, where the days for sick leave, vacation, holiday, everything are all pooled together. And they would say, okay, so look, you take Christmas, you take New Year's, you take your sick days, you take your vacation, all of it comes to 35 days a year. Use it how you want, something like that. Some companies will let you buy back unused sick leave days. This is not encouraged anymore because the temptation was people who were sick would come into work, because at the end of the year, they wanted those to get paid for those days. So now it's supposed to be, some companies will let you roll over. So if you had 12 days this year and you only used 6, then next year you get those 6. Companies don't really do that anymore. That was very much a 1960s, 1970s policy. Other things they do, which this actually is not a bad idea, having monthly lotteries where the only people who can be in the lottery are people with perfect attendance. So if you came to work, then you could win some sort of prize, or investigating any unplanned absences. That was also featured in The Office, where Dwight mistook Daryl's sister for Darryl, if we're remembering favorite Office episodes. That was a pretty good one. Since Daryl's the one who did it, and he got caught by Toby. Okay, let's take a break now. We'll take 10 minutes and then we'll come back. Let's continue, and people will come in as they come in. Okay, so we were talking about sick leave. Now, other times of the sort of time not worked benefits, right? Pay for time not worked, other benefits, severance. Severance is money you get if you are fired. And again, it's not your fault. Not all companies do this, but they can give you a payment when you leave the company. Just like, you know, a final month of pay, something like that, or 2 weeks or something. We already talked about workers' compensation. We've learned about the Pregnancy Discrimination Act already. But looking at the severance pay, I said it's a one-time payment. And it's kind of a bridge. It's meant to give you a little bit of money while you're looking for another job. But like I said, this is only if you're fired for if it's not your fault. If you did something wrong, you usually will not get severance, right? It can't be for cause.
In Brazil, we have this, it's like enforced by the government. So basically from the salary, 80% of your salary, the employee pay to put in a fund. And the employer also match this 80% in your fund. And then if you get fired, the employer have to pay 40% of whole amount in your fund as severance payment.
Oh, well, that sounds like a pretty good system, actually.
Yes,
at least
this is enforced. Yeah, this is enforced by the government, but sometimes like people that works, I don't know, 10 years for the company, so they have a kind of a big amount in this fund. So maybe they don't like it, the job, but they still working the company because they don't want to lose this.
You don't want to quit.
This severance. Exactly.
Sure, you want to be fired, but not for cause.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. You lose a lot of money. That's okay. We've already talked about workers' compensation pretty much, but the idea is this is money you get if someone is injured. And there's usually a set time limit on how long you get this. It's not that much money, but it is money if you're injured. So all you need to show is that it happened while you were on the job and that it was an accident, but it doesn't matter if it was your fault. It doesn't matter if it was your fault or if it's because you didn't follow the instructions. So if I said, you know, okay, welcome to the job, be very careful on that machine, it's a dangerous machine, and you go over and you're playing with the machine and you get hurt, you still get workers' compensation. Doesn't matter if it was your fault. And so therefore, there is a temptation sometimes for people to misuse this, but not that many people do because people don't want to get hurt. Okay, let's jump forward and talk a little about insurance. So we have talked about a bunch of required benefits. And now let's talk about insurance. Insurance is not required. It is not required in America that a company provide health insurance to their employees. However, most companies do. So like 98% of employers offer some sort of prescription drug program coverage. 96% offer dental. You know, there's a lot of, most companies do offer different kinds of health insurance. You don't have to though. So we'll talk about the Affordable Care Act, what is also known as Obamacare. That's the PPACA. is Obamacare. That includes something called COBRA, which is protection like for your kids. We'll talk, and then we'll talk a little about things like HIPAA. But the first thing to understand is, as I said, companies in America do not have to provide healthcare. Most of them do choose to, because, I mean, the government does pay attention to this. They do investigate. And if the company doesn't provide healthcare, for one, they're going to get a less quality employees. And then for two, the employees may end up using government care like Medicare, like Medicaid or workers' compensation, and then the company will have to pay more money to the government every month. So the companies usually balance, if I don't give health care and the employees get hurt or sick, and then I have to pay for it because I got sued or I had to pay workers' compensation, versus just providing them pretty basic health care. So under the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, it encourages people to get health care. It subsidizes, which means the government helps pay. You know, because the idea is they really want everybody to have a healthcare provider, an HMO. But there are some issues with it. For one, you only have like 6 weeks to find your healthcare provider. You can't do it all year, but you don't have to have a healthcare provider. COBRA says that if you have healthcare, you have to be able to give it to your family. And even if you leave a job, even if you're fired for any reason, you can buy COBRA, you can buy continued healthcare for up to 18 months. The problem with COBRA is it's very expensive. Like, I think it's like $1,000 a month or something. It's very expensive. But, you know, the point is, if you get fired from your job for any reason, you can still get healthcare. The employer is required to continue it if they have healthcare. In America, and this is a good rule in America, and a lot of countries don't have this, there's something called parity. And parity says that whatever healthcare is provided for your body has to also be provided for your mind, which means healthcare in America must include therapy or psychiatry or psychology or things like that. Where if you look like in China, China has no parity. And now this is from 1996, so this isn't an old law, this is new. But China doesn't have this. So if you work in China, you get no mental health benefits. It's all physical. And China, that's an interesting thing about China, but they're not really ready for that yet. There are not many, it's a new field in China, therapy in general. So healthcare is going up in price in most countries. China is still pretty cheap, right? And in America, it's gone up 78% since just 2004. So healthcare costs are kind of skyrocketing. And so because of this, there are some of these trends that we talked about. For one, to reduce healthcare. For two, to make it a lot more flexible. And for three, to include things like gain sharing and profit sharing so that employees can have part of the burden of trying to increase the productivity of the business. So some of the trends in insurance. So as you can see, I'm not asking you to know very much about insurance. What I want you to know is that it's not required and that pretty much most companies do offer health insurance. I'm not really asking you to know very much about it. We will talk a little more about insurance carriers in a minute, but we're not going to talk too much about benefits because in HR, what we do is we choose the insurance company. But we're not really in control of what benefits they offer. But we'll talk in a minute about how do we choose the insurance company. So some trends now. Wellness programs. So wellness programs, as I said, are preventative to try to have less people getting sick. A claim audit is not great, but it's popular now. And that is where there's an outside company that is hired to investigate when you say you're sick. Because the cost is so high in America of getting sick that they have special teams to investigate. Medical tourism is encouraged now. This is like going to, it's not in China really yet, but people will fly to Vietnam or Thailand to get medical treatment because it's good quality, or the Philippines too. It's good quality and it's so much cheaper than America. You know, China is not there yet. And then we'll talk about some long-term care. So wellness program, as I said, the key word is it is preventative. Now, this could include disease prevention. Disease prevention is really about modifying your lifestyle, healthy eating, healthy sleeping, getting exercise, learning to meditate, learning to relax. That's all disease prevention. Clinical prevention is things like getting tests, making sure you get your shots, making sure you get checkups, because it's a lot cheaper to go to the doctor every 3 months or 6 months for the company and to give you a basic checkup than to wait until you find out you have some sickness and then the company needs to pay. So wellness programs are pretty popular. Claims audits, as I said, are pretty popular. This is having an outside industry that tries to make sure all of the claims are real, because employers pay a lot of money in fake claims. So the way to reduce this is they audit people to make sure you qualify, to make sure you really were sick. And when I say they investigate, I don't mean they follow you or they go to your house or anything like that, or take photos of you. I mean, they just check with the doctor, check with the hospital, make sure it was real, you know, see what you went for. Just because in the past, this took so much time and energy that a big company, like look at a company like IBM, how could they possibly call the hospital or call the doctor for thousands of employees? They can't. It just is going to take too much time. Medical tourism, as I said, this is just going to another country for care. And long-term care includes things like daycare for adults, assisted living for people who can't take care of themselves anymore, or home care, which is having like a nurse come and live with someone. And those are more popular now because now you have more older people who are retired. You know, in the past, the life expectancy was younger. So now life expectancy might be 85 years old. I don't think it's that old, but you know, it's around 80. And therefore you get a lot of people who need assisted living. So now that's part of some healthcare benefits. Okay, let's talk a little about choosing. In HR, we have to choose the insurance. So what are the types of benefit plans that we can choose from? Well, there's the traditional benefit plan. And the traditional benefit plan, the employees just choose, do you want to participate or not? If you don't, you get some additional payment so that you get additional money and you can buy your own health insurance, or you can just not buy health insurance. That's up to you, right? There's no what's called the individual mandate. There's no individual mandate. You do not have to have health insurance. This is a big fight in American politics, but you don't have to have health insurance. You could just hope you don't get sick and then pay the doctor if you get sick. Now, this is more common in China where things are not as expensive, but less common in America. Modern plans are more flexible benefit, which is called a cafeteria plan. And that says you don't have to participate in healthcare, but you could choose one thing if you wanted it. If you wanted just dental, okay. And then you get the rest as cash. You want dental and visual and the rest is cash? Okay. You want full healthcare? Okay. You know, you have an allowance. Now, this can be less expensive for employers because There are some things that are quite expensive. For example, different kinds of child care or pregnancy care. Now, if I'm a single man with no children, the company would be wasting money to give me those benefits. So it would be better if I could choose my own benefits and have a better dental plan or something. So more flexible plans are popular these days. This has trade-offs. You get a number of credits, and then you can use that, or you can get cash back, right? So if you don't want the healthcare, then you get cash back instead of just not participating. So there are a lot of benefits for flexible plans. Now, how in HR do we choose the insurance company? How do we select one? Well, I mean, this isn't something I'm really going to ask you on the test. What I want you to understand is I want you to understand that HR chooses the insurance company. That's what I need you to know. The way we choose is we just ask these questions. For example, are there guaranteed rates, or do the rates go up and down each year? What's the schedule for when we have to pay? What services are included? How long do you pay until you pay us back? And how do you keep your costs contained or keep your costs low? I mean, these are the kind of questions we might ask in HR, but I'm not really asking you to know that. So how do we get our employees to pay? How are they gonna, do we just give them the healthcare, or how do we deal with the payments? That's called funding. So there are three methods. Number one, fully insured. And that means we have a healthcare plan we give to the employees, and the premium is paid each month. We pay, the employer pays. This is typical for companies with less than 200 employees. So you accept the risk of high cost, but the benefit of this to the employees is this is a really good thing. For employees, you're going to get better employees because you're competitive. You have a fully insured healthcare package, which may not matter to you when you're 21. But if you're married with children in your 30s, this matters a lot. And it really does determine in a lot of ways what companies people look for. Number two would be self-funded. Self-funded, the employer pays a lower fixed amount each month and then pays up to a pre-established amount of money, so that the employer would say, okay, listen, we're going to give each employee up to $2,000 in healthcare, up to. And then we have a relationship with different doctors. And if you need to go, you go see these doctors. They're on our plan, but you have up to $2,000, whatever, more than that you pay. For what's called minimum premium, in that case, it's a little bit of a higher fee paid by the company, and this gives the company more funding. So now the maximum might be $10,000 instead of $2,000. We have less exposure. So the idea of exposure is pretty important in healthcare. Exposure is how much money might we have to pay. So as a company in HR, we have to decide what's our risk level. Let's say that we don't want to take any risk at all. We might do self-funded. So we're going to pay a certain amount of money to the employees and that's it. We have very low risk. It's not a great system. People don't have that much benefit. Now, if we want to take a little more risk, but have a better program for our people, we would do minimum premium funding. And that says that we're going to pay a little bit more to the healthcare organization, and our employees have better healthcare. It's the sort of second option. But if there's a very large claim, if somebody needs a very expensive surgery, we might have to pay for that because we'll have a higher risk. And then the highest risk is the fully funded. right? That's the fully funded where we are going to pay and there's really no maximum. But it's the best for our employees. So there's just kind of low, middle, high. That's really all you need to know. The last big thing that I want to talk about is, I mean, there are two things I want to talk about, but the last big one is to talk about retirement. I just want to make sure we cover that. Oh, we got plenty of time. We're fine. Okay, so with retirement, we already talked about Social Security. And that is the money that the employee pays. It just is taken out of your taxes every month. The employer, the boss, will match that. And then that's money for when you retire, traditionally at 65. Pension plans. So pension plans are money that you can choose to put. It's not taken out in taxes. It's an option. And you can choose to put this into a special bank account for when you retire. Now, sometimes it is matched. And if you put in $1,000 every month, your boss will also put in $1,000 every month. Sometimes it's matched at 1/2. You put in $1,000 and your boss puts in 500. Sometimes you can choose how much you put in. You could put in up to $5,000 a month or up to $2,000 a month. And then the more you put in, the more your boss will match. Sometimes it's not matched. Sometimes there's a limit on what you can put in per month. Those are all different kinds of pension plans. Now, pension plans are kind of going away. You know, they're less available than they were before because companies have less money to match these things. But let's talk about different retirement plans, different pension plans, and then we'll talk about some other plans, one of which is, we already looked at, the ESOP, the ESOP, which is a stock plan. And then we'll look for a moment at ERISA. So for Social Security, right now I think it's 65. It used to be 62. But this is an income, right? You get 3 types of benefits if you're over 65. You get the income, that's the money. Also, if someone dies, this provides a monthly payment to the dependents. Dependents are usually children. And you get a disability benefit, which is also monthly payments to children if the employee becomes totally unable to work. So once you retire in America, these are, and most countries, when you retire, these are kind of the 3 benefits you get. You get money every month for retiring. You get payments to your children in the case that you pass away. And you get payments to your children in the case that you're disabled and can't work anymore. Those are the benefits you get. Now, for the plans that you choose, the optional retirement plans, all of the pension plans, there's a couple of terms and ideas that I'd like us to understand about those, because retirement is obviously a big issue. It's something you guys aren't thinking about now, but if you go into HR, retirement is, it's an interesting area. It's something that it's very good to understand at a young age, not because you guys are going to retire now, but because you can start contributing. And what's important is if you start working and you contribute money to your retirement, remember, that's a special bank account. So if you leave your first job after 2 years or 3 years and you go to your second job, you don't lose that money. That money comes with you. It's a separate bank account. So you want to start understanding this idea as soon as you can, so that when you start working, you can start finding out, look, if your employer matches, that's free money, quite honestly. It's free, untaxed money. So if you're putting $1,000, a month, or $1,000 every, $500 a month, whatever you're putting in, if your employer is putting in and matching that money, that's free money that's not being taxed, that you can take with you for the rest of your life. So it's good to understand. So there are a couple of kinds of pension plans. First of all, the question is it contributory? So in a contributory plan, the employee pays every month. And maybe they get matched and maybe they don't. In a non-contributory plan, which is very rare these days, only the boss will pay. Every month, the boss or the employer, the company will put money into your retirement. That is rare. Big companies still do that. Management positions get that, but most employees don't really get that anymore. Then there's qualified versus non-qualified. That's our next question for a pension plan, which is, what are the tax benefits? A qualified plan, and you don't need to know what the qualifications are, but there are tax benefits for a qualified plan. The difference has nothing to do with the employees. It has to do with how can this money be used. So let's say that I have a company, and you don't really need to know this because this isn't something HR deals with really, but let's say I have a company and you guys are my employees. Let's say I have like a 50-person company, and I want you guys to have good retirement benefits. So I'm going to give you a contributory plan. You can put money in every month if you want. The money isn't taxed. Now, here's the question. What am I going to do with that money that you're putting in every month? Should I put it into the stock market? Should I put it into a mutual fund? Should I leave it in the bank? Should I buy Bitcoin? What should I do with it? And if I put it into the stock market or like a mutual fund, now, Anais, can you tell us what's a mutual fund?
Funds with a lot of people?
Not necessarily a lot of people, but close. It's a fund with a lot of stocks. So instead of buying, for example, one share of Apple stock, you could buy one share. So mutual fund is a company. Let's start there. It is a company, which means you can buy their stock. So you buy one share of a company, and what does this company do? They own some Apple stock, some Facebook stock, what we call FANG. Facebook, Apple, N is, I want to say Netflix. It's N.
Yeah, I would say this, but
and G, what's G?
Google?
I don't remember. I know it's called a FANG, but either way, these are like the technology stuff. Oh, Google, right.
Google.
So like Google, Facebook, Apple, there would be a company and all they do is they buy all the different technology stocks. So instead of buying one share of Apple stock, you buy one share of this mutual fund and it has all the technology stocks. Now, there are other companies that do this with environmental stocks, like a green fund. There's other companies that do this with China stocks. They open a company and the whole company just owns Alibaba and Tencent and Bilibili and JD and, you know, NEO and all these China stocks. Instead of trying to choose which China stock is good, you just buy one share of the China mutual fund or however many shares you want. So this is a company that provides you with a group of stocks. If the entire China market goes up, then the stocks go up. So if I have a qualified plan, that means I, as the employer, have to choose low risk ways to increase the money. And the government, because of this, is going to give me tax benefits. Now, instead, I could have a non-qualified plan and I could use the money in I can't go to Vegas and gamble it, but I can put it into more risky stocks. Now, if I do that, your retirement could be worth a lot more money when you retire, but I'm not going to get the same tax benefits. The government doesn't really want me to take a risk with your money. So it's going to give me an incentive to not take big risks. There's another category, which is this benefit plan defined benefit or defined contribution? So these are sort of opposites, just like these two, contributory versus non-contributory. This is number one thing we consider when looking at pension plans. Qualified versus non-qualified. This is the number two thing we look at in pension plans. And is it A or B? It has to be one of these. This is the number three thing we look at. It can't be both of these. It's one or the other. So a defined benefit plan, the employee knows what you will get when you retire. This is rare these days. This is not common. So this says, like, when you retire, you get $100,000. That's it. That's what you get. Or you get $10,000 a year. It doesn't matter if you work for 20 years. It doesn't matter if inflation has gone up. When you retire, that's what you get. Now, most companies don't do this anymore because the stock market is unpredictable. The economy is unpredictable. Inflation is unpredictable. So what most companies do is the defined contribution, which says, I don't know how much you'll get when you turn 65. What I know is I know how much you and me will pay each month. I know that you're going to put in $1,000 a month and I'm going to match that. Or you're going to put in 2,000 and I'm going to put in 1,000. We know that. Now, how much will you get when you retire? I don't know. It depends. It depends on how much you put in. It depends on the success of our investments. If we put it all into a China mutual fund and it did really well, well, I guess you'll get more. If we put it all into a technology mutual fund and it didn't do well, well, then I guess you get less. So that's something we're going to choose also. Number four thing we're going to choose for retirement is called portability. Is this portable? So a defined contribution plan, how much money you put in every month, makes it much more portable. Let's try to understand this. Portable means to take it with you. So I said, if you guys start working when you're 21, let's say, who's my example? Okay, Christine, you're my example. You start working when you're 21 years old, 22, you graduate college, you get a job, you start working. And you work for me, okay? You work for me. And I give you an insurance plan. I'll give you a 401k. We'll talk about this in a second. A 401k. This is probably the most common kind of insurance plan. So I'm going to give you a 401k. Now, a 401k plan is defined contribution. So what does that mean? Defined contribution. Well, we just said defined contribution means we know how much you and me will pay every month to this bank account, to this retirement plan. So Christine, how much do you want to put in every month?
I'm not sure what is like a good amount.
I don't know. Let's say you put in 1,000.
Okay, 1,000.
1,000. That would be a lot. I'll tell you, that would be a lot to put in. Most people, so in fact, God, there was a study that just came out a few days ago that said that in America, and this is crazy, but it just came out, 40%, that's 40% of people in America do not have $400 in the bank. So most people are not able to save $1,000 a month. Many people can barely save $1,000 a year. One of the big benefits of working in China, you can save more. But it depends on your job, it depends what you do. What would be a common amount per month in America would be something like $200. $200 would be a pretty common amount. Then you're saving $1,200 a year. So let's say, Christine, you put in 200. Okay, so you put in $200 a month, and I'll match that by half. So you put in 200, I'll put in 100. Now, in that case, we know how much we're putting in each month. right? So we're going to put this into stocks or investments. You can choose if you want to choose. Now, this money, this $200, you are not taxed on that until you remove the money or you retire. And I'll put in this 100. So every month, Christine, $300 not taxed goes into this bank account. So that's pretty good. Now let's get back to this idea of portability. Can you take it with you? Let's say you work for me, and let's change the example. Let's say I didn't give you this. Instead, I gave you a defined benefits plan. This says when you retire, you will get $3,000 a month. That's it. You will get that. Now, you work for me for 3 years, and then you quit or you leave, and you go and you work for Ethan. Ethan has a company also. Now, let's say I gave you a really good benefits plan. Let's say you were going to get $5,000 a month. If you move over to Ethan, Ethan has to keep that benefits plan. Ethan doesn't want to give you $5,000 a month when you retire. That's not how Ethan does his retirement funds. So it's hard to take this with you because most companies don't do this benefits plan. So a defined contribution plan where you put in $200 a month or $1,000 a month, that's much easier to bring with you because we can change the amount of money that you put in. You can change this year, you put in $200 a month. If next month you want to put in $500, you can. Right? So when you go and you work at Ethan's company, now Ethan gives you a 401k. You can put as much or as little each month in as you want. And so it's much more portable. It's much easier to bring with you. So this is a reason that most companies give a defined contribution. Tell me if I'm losing you on this, Christine. Is this making sense? It's okay if it's boring. I just want to make sure it's clear.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Juan, am I losing you? What's a 401k? Mr. Montilla.
No, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I was zoned out. Sorry.
You were zoned out for how long? What's a pension plan? What is a pension plan?
It's like for you to retire.
Okay, it is for you to retire. Is it required by the government?
For companies, it is, right?
No, it is not. Chandra, tell me some things that are required by the government. No?
David.
The how do you say this? The vacation, like the leisure days.
Vacation, sure. I don't think vacation is required, but holidays are required. Who was just talking?
Pregnancy leave when you are pregnant.
Okay, that's required. If that maternity, so maternity leave is definitely required. Anybody? What else is stuff that's required?
Holidays.
Holidays are required, sure. Vacation's not, but holidays are.
I have a question. I have a question about the. We have two kinds of benefits. One is contributory. The another one is I don't remember the name. Yes. So this first one in the example that you make with Christine. So she worked for you, and you have this first kind defined benefit plan that you would pay her like 3,000 when she retired.
Sure. It's determined by her payment now multiplied by how many years she's worked.
Okay. So if she move to another company, they must pay the same kind?
No,
No. So they
no, they
can
don't
choose
have to.
another.
Yes.
What happens with her payment, like for this kind? It's still in the
It's still
fund,
there. Yeah, yeah. She
still
doesn't lose
there?
it.
Okay.
You never
And she,
lose it.
okay.
You can't lose it. So if she's been working for 5 years for me, and she has a contributory plan, which means every month she puts in money, that money is hers.
Yes.
Now, if
And,
she has,
and-
yeah.
go, sorry.
If she has a non-contributory plan, that means every month I put in money. That money is still hers.
Even if she like quit,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, look, that's like saying if you quit the job, let me take back your salary from last year. She earned this money. It's just not cash, but she earned it. It's just in a special bank account.
it's not available now, but it's her
Well,
money.
it is available now, but there's a big penalty if she takes it out now. There's really two penalties. Number one, if she takes it out now, she needs to pay tax on all of it. Right now, there's no tax on it. So, and if she gets it when she retires, no tax. If she wants to take it out now, you pay tax. And number two, there's a penalty of like 10% or something. I don't know the exact number. It's different for different plans, but there's a big penalty. But if she needs the money, sure, she could take it out now. You know, in a good situation, you never want to touch your retirement. You just want to pay into your retirement.
Yes, I see.
I mean, it's pretty important because a lot of people in this day and age in America won't get a retirement at all. A lot of people don't have a pension plan, don't put money into a pension plan, and Social Security might not last. And then people will, I mean, if 40% of people in America don't have $400, I mean, what's going to happen in 20 years?
Yeah, and like people are struggling now to pay the bills, you know, so people, okay, I will have this money in 30 years, but I need this now. So
I mean, or, you know, people are crazy. They want an Xbox now. They don't care. They don't care. They want it now. America's that kind of place. Okay. Now, one last thing about retirement, which is what happens if you guys are working for me and this money, you put this money into the bank every month for retirement, and I take this money and I buy technology stock and China stock and whatever, and the stock all goes down. What happens to your retirement money? That is ERISA. ERISA is a government program that is about making sure that your retirement money is safe. Because in the past, before this law, pension plans actually failed, you know, because the stock market would go down or the company was taking very bad risks. And they would take the retirement money and they would put it all into something very risky, or maybe even something that was benefiting their family or benefiting their friends or something like that. And then people were losing their retirement. So the government does have a law that is supposed to protect workers' pensions. However, to use this law, the pension must vest. So, Juan, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Great. What does vesting mean?
Vesting?
Vest. Yeah, where did we learn this? We talked about it before. What does it mean for a payment to vest?
Is it to earn terms like in the present, or like a payment? Is it like a form of payment?
It's not a form of payment, really.
You have to wait a certain amount of time before getting some benefits?
Yes. You have to wait a certain amount of time. So when we talked about stock, we said, I could give my employees stock, but you don't get it today. Because then you could come and work for me, take my stock, and then quit tomorrow. So instead, you need to work a certain amount of time. Now, you own the stock today. I gave you the stock, but you can't sell it yet. I can't take it away. I gave it to you. It's yours. But it's almost like a parent holding it until the child is 18. I can't have you sell it today. So it has to vest. So we have the same idea with ERISA, with retirement benefits. So under ERISA, these pension rights must vest. And there are 3 ways to vest. I am not going to ask you this on the final exam, but I would like you to know what is ERISA, that it protects pensions. So in general, there are 3 ways for it to vest. It could be fast, within 1 to 2 years. It could be graded, which means it is gradual. After 2 years, you get 20% of the stock, and then you get 20% more each year. Or it could be cliff vesting. Cliff vesting says 3 years. But remember, what we're talking about here is not stocks. It's your pension, your retirement money. So the government will protect retirement money, but it takes, years for you to have the right to get that money. Now, the government did create a set amount of money that's sort of a maximum of how much they will protect, because they can't protect. What if your retirement was supposed to be $500,000? They can't give you that because then other people wouldn't get money. So the maximum they protect is $54,000. However, this is only under defined benefit, not defined contribution plans. And as I said, these days, almost all plans are defined contribution. So the government this corporation does not protect defined contribution plans. I understand if this is a little confusing. Like I said, I don't need you to know all of this for the final. I need you to know that the big picture here is we just spent, 2 weeks talking about compensation and how you decide how much to pay people. And now we're talking about benefits. And the big picture here is that benefits are important. What is the purpose of benefits? They attract people, they retain good people, they motivate employees. There are some benefits that are required by law. I'd like you to know that. Do you need to know every single one? No. You could look that up on Google, but you should know that benefits is a big idea and it really is important for employees, and some benefits are required by law. You should know that another really big benefit is healthcare, and that HR is very, very involved with deciding about the healthcare. And then you should know that another really big benefit is retirement. So that's really all I want you to know. We go into detail in class, but I don't need you to know all of these details. Okay, last thing I want you to know, what's called family-friendly benefits. So here's where I talked about EAP. We'll talk about that in a second. But family-friendly benefits, this is not healthcare, this is not retirement care, this is not Medicaid or Medicare, this is not Social Security. These are just more modern benefits that are good for a family. So things like elder care. What if your parents need help? they can't really take care of themselves, or they need to live in a hospice situation, or they need to have someone come and take care of them or cook for them. That's a kind of benefit that's good for the family. Domestic partner benefits fall under here. This is not a marriage benefit. This is for people who are LGBTQ. Sick child benefits or child care being paid by the company, or EAP. And the one I really want you to know is EAP. I mean, that's what I think is most important. So these benefits are not required, certainly by law, but EAP a little bit, but they're not required by law. But you can't now in America, you can't fire someone for having an alcohol problem. You can't just fire them for that reason. You have to offer them treatment. That is required. So there is that EAP benefit. Other benefits could be that some companies offer their own sort of bank and they lend money to employees. Some companies offer their own lawyers to help you with legal services like divorce or marriage or adoption or getting sued. Some companies offer their own therapists, or they have a relationship with some sort of counseling organization. Some companies offer special prices for gyms or special prices for movie theaters, you know, and discounts. These are all benefits that you can offer people, things that are social. So other benefits could be educational, giving you money back for college tuition or for getting a master's or for getting a technical certification. There are lots and lots of sort of other benefits, supplemental benefits that a company could offer. Okay, the one I care about most that you understand is EAP. So EAP is something that is a benefit, and this is a benefit that I said you can't fire someone for having an alcohol problem, but you don't need to give them good treatment. You do need to give them treatment, an option. And then if they don't take the option, then you can fire them. You don't have to keep someone on. If they're coming in drunk every day, you don't have to employ them. But EAPs are pretty broad. And the reason that I think this is the most important is this is really still about the employee's safety and health, right? And this is for addictions, for mental health issues, but also includes things like domestic violence or legal problems. This is really just, it's not about your physical health, but it still is very much related to health. So I'll give an example. I have a friend who was a DJ at a radio station in Los Angeles for 15 years. And during COVID, he was fired. You know, he didn't do anything wrong, but they don't have the money, so they let him go. But this is a California company, and it's a big radio station. They have a good EAP program, and they actually had a career counselor who would come and meet with him multiple times to help him write a resume. He hasn't, you know, looked for a job in 15 years. So they help him write a resume. They help him talk about what jobs would be suitable for him. They help him prepare for interviews, you know, just like a career counselor. And it doesn't cost that much money, but it's a big benefit for him. You know, it's very scary to lose your job after 15 years. And the goal of all of these kind of programs, these additional benefits, the goal is really this idea of work-life balance. I called it family friendly, but you could also call it work-life. And like I said, it could be a gym, it could be child care, all of these things that just make your life a little bit better. Okay, that we're actually right at the end of the time for 2.5 hours. There's a couple of other slides, but there's nothing I think is particularly important. It's mostly just talking about these kind of benefits, things like executive benefits or flex time. Flex time is more common these days in some jobs, and that would say you work 40 hours a week, but you choose the 40 hours. You want to come at 8 a.m., cool. You want to come at 10 a.m., cool. Now, a lot of jobs don't do that because they do need you there at certain times. But some jobs will let you do that. Or some jobs will give you a compressed work week, and that says work more hours Monday to Thursday, and then Friday you could work a half day. I know people who have that option. Job sharing is an interesting new idea. Job sharing would say, let's say my company needs to hire a new teacher and the job is 40 hours a week, but I can't really find the perfect person. So instead I hire Nicola and Chandra and they will share the job. And each of you will work 20 hours a week and get half of the money. That's the idea of job sharing. Now, the problem with job sharing is I can't give each of you half of healthcare. But this is something companies like to do because now, I mean, I'm not giving you healthcare. Each of you is getting half of a salary, and I have more employees. Now, there can be problems with this because if I have 2 employees, I am paying more Social Security. I am paying all those legal benefits. I do have to pay for those, but I get benefits because I have 2 employees and I'm not paying you healthcare. So, you know, these are all other kinds of cafeteria plans and different flexible benefits. But that's all we'll talk about there. Okay, so that is, as far as I am concerned, everything in this course. There was one other subject which had to do with health and fairness, but we are not going to cover that because I think next week we should do a review. And that's it. So, any questions? Anything to discuss?
Sir, is it okay to sometimes bullet point when I write it for the exam? Like sometimes it's like write whole sentences, but sometimes are you allowing us to make a
on the exam lists are fine. Totally fine.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're writing an essay, then I like paragraphs. When you're writing an exam, I understand you don't have the time for that.
Yeah.
And is it the same layout as like last at the midterm? So like the kind of the same questions, or will you have a story or?
Yeah, it'll be a story, and we'll see in the practice exams next week. But yes, it'll be a story, and the story is, here's a type of company you recently joined their HR team and you need to fix compensation, training, recruitment, whatever. And I'll be clear in the story what some of the problems are. And then I want you to pretty much identify the problems, talk about the HR rules, and then apply the rules to the problem.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, well, Christine, as your special gift for asking that question, you're now the host.
All right.
Okay, so you seem really excited about that. It must be all the fun of talking about retirement plans. Okay, so this week, what you should be doing is getting your study materials together. That is 100%, that is the best way you can get a good grade on this final exam now. It is not about going back and memorizing. It's really not even about watching the videos again, unless there's a whole subject you're totally confused on. For now, it's about getting your materials ready and then looking at the practice questions. And the first practice question, you should just see, do you know where in your materials you need to turn to find the answers? I mean, that should be the number one thing. When you look at the practice question, can you identify the problems? And then if you needed to answer this, don't sit down and write it first. If you needed to answer this question, do you know in your own study materials where to find that information? And then outlines. I can't stress that enough. You know, take the first 5 to 10 minutes. I'm giving you guys a 3-hour exam. Take the first 10 minutes. Read the story twice. Read it once just to read it with no pen, no pencil. Read it a second time with a highlighter or a pen to like circle things or highlight things. And then sit down with your materials and write an outline. Give yourself the time to do that. You do not want to be writing the answer and thinking, what should I write next? If you are ever thinking, what should I write next? You're never going to get A pluses. It's just the way it is. You know, if you want to be an A student, you need to know what you should write next. And then you already have your outline, and you can always add things to the outline, but you know what you should write next. And then when you're writing, you already have the skeleton. You're just adding the flesh and the meat and the muscles, and you're just adding information. But if you are taking a practice test and you ever are asking, oh my God, what do I write next? Outlines. Let me know if you guys want to take you want me to give you a 20-minute tutorial on how to write outlines next week, no problem. I will do that. Just let me know if that's something you guys want over WeChat or whatever. So, and maybe I'll do it anyway because it is important. So, okay, I will see you guys next week then.
So, sir, so next week we're going to have a review, and then next week is the exam, right?
Correct.
Same time as the class.
The exam will be available all Tuesday, next Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
And then you can go to Blackboard to the content section and you can choose when you want to take it. And whenever you press start, you'll have 3 hours. At the end of 3 hours, it will be automatically submitted.
Okay, perfect.
And what I recommend, and I'll say it again next week, but I'll say it now, I strongly recommend that when you take the test, you write your answer on Microsoft Word or Pages or some sort of word processing program. And then when you're at 2 hours and 45 minutes or something, you copy and paste that over to Blackboard. Do not write it on Blackboard. I have seen a few students who wrote it on Blackboard, and with 10 minutes left, there was some computer problem, their computer lost power, their computer died, they tried to save it, and all of a sudden the internet went out, and boom, it was gone. If you save it to Microsoft Word, the first thing, when you get ready to take this test, the first thing you should do is open and save a Microsoft Word document called Final Exam so that you can't lose it, so that it will auto-save. And then just write it on that, and then you're safe. I have no problem. If you have a problem uploading it, you can email me the Microsoft Word document. That is totally fine. But I have seen students really write it in Blackboard, and I've seen other students who wrote it in Microsoft Word but never saved it. So don't start this exam until you have an open, saved Microsoft Word document and write it in that. Okay, cool. I will see you guys next week.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you.